problem with America at the moment is America has a twin fiscal deficit and trade deficit, and therefore purchasing Bitcoin strategic reserves is challenging at the federal level because they don't have the reserves, because they export dollars around the world, and so therefore they're in debt, and they need to they have a debt-based Ponzi scheme through the Federal Reserve System that requires them to continually increase the debt, and basically the dollar is debt. And so if you try and pay down that debt, you crash the economy and create a depression. Even though politicians will tell you they're trying to pay down the debt, it's just not possible. And so now they've hit a 125% debt to GDP ratio, which does not include the additional 250 trillion of committed liabilities that America has right now for Medicare, Social Security, interest on the debt, and the war machine that the military industrial complex benefits from, which props up the dollar proof of weapons debt-based Ponzi scheme as well. And so for Ukraine to do that, because Ukraine is fully vassalized, Ukraine was obviously targeted by the proof of weapons network. The CIA launched operations in order to vassalize it. And now approximately 50% of all the land and all the assets are owned by BlackRock, because BlackRock, through controlling ETFs and managing all these pensions, is able to create a shadow government that is way bigger and way more influential than the actual government. So the actual government works for BlackRock. I covered this whole structure last week. If you didn't watch episode 80, I covered how it's BlackRock versus the world. And BlackRock's a metaphor for a more complex structure, but let's just use the word BlackRock for now. But you can go back last work and you can see that. And so now they use war through the deep state and controlling intelligence in order to aggravate these wars. But now Ukraine is just, carved up for BlackRock, for the UK, which is essentially a vassal state for BlackRock portfolio companies as well. They were securing the land and country in order to borrow more, in order to send more money to Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, and Raytheon, so that you could take and steal money from the Europeans, the Brits, and the Americans, and send it over to those large corporations so that BlackRock's portfolio companies could increase in value. And when you vassalize a state like Ukraine right now, where essentially they're just negotiating, US wants all of its rare earth minerals, not for US, but for its corporations that need those rare earth, which are BlackRock portfolio companies. And then BlackRock gets the most, the land, and then the rest of it goes to Russia, which is the operation that was set up. They also get to remove the dependency of Europe from Russia, so that they could end up buying the gas from the natural gas companies in America. So, this is how the proof of weapons network works. The country no longer becomes about you. It doesn't become about America first, Britain first, European first. It just becomes about you becoming a pawn for narratives that justify the proof of weapons operations that ends up extracting value from you, making the middle class poorer, and ending up with the large corporations that control the political process. And that's exactly what Zelensky is, and all of these puppet leaders like Starmer and Macron and all of these others that are just meeting up in order to steal money from the British people, the Europeans, as living conditions get worse and worse and worse, because none of the governments are working for those people anymore. And as BlackRock is doing for America right now, I'll cover more of that in the macro section when we cover Trump's speech in Saudi Arabia. But essentially, Ukraine is saying that they're going to have a national Bitcoin reserve. But what are they going to use to buy that? Because they don't have reserves. They are no longer a sovereign state because BlackRock did a hostile takeover and is killing Ukrainians in order to extract as much value from that for the profits, and using the proof of weapons network in order to achieve that. In the meantime, over back in America with the Trump administration, Eric Trump came out and says that there is a race to the top to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. So while I never listen to what people say, unless their investments and their money matches it, and in this case, the Trump administration is buying as much Bitcoin through his family structures, including Bitcoin mining companies, including the launching of stable coins, including the launching of pump and dump scam meme coins in order to extract and end up with more Bitcoin. They're using every mechanism possible, whether it's stable coins and NFTs or meme coins or mining Bitcoin, anything they can do to get as much Bitcoin as possible for the Trump family, as is many other people in the Trump administration. And still, America doesn't have a Bitcoin strategic reserve. However, I believe BlackRock wants to break up America into parts, into separate states as an operation while they weaken Europe and destroy the UK, which is what they've been doing. And America's the next, or has been, a target as well. And so the states are starting to get Bitcoin strategic reserves approved. Now, it remains to be seen whether they'll start to use them, but it looks like they're sending more power to the states and less power to the Fed. But we shall see what happens. But you can see what those games are. But in the meantime, the politicians are accumulating as much Bitcoin as possible. And BlackRock is getting all of the banks and financial institutions and states that manage their money through BlackRock to get their Bitcoin positions built up as BlackRock transitions the world into this multipolar world order that I've been sharing for a long time now.